Welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki from Genic Fashions, and in this video I will be doing a challenge that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. I will be upcycling men's wear. So men's business wear, men's formal wear. In order to complete this challenge, I went to Goodwill. Alright, so here I am wearing a bunch of the pieces that I picked up from Goodwill. And here is what it looked like when I finished working on a dress that I created with those pieces. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you every step I took along the way in order to create this piece. If you enjoy this tutorial and you want to see more like it, don't forget to press like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Alright, enjoy! Alright, so I went to the thrift shop and I bought a ton of menswear that I plan to use to make my piece today. So I have a mix of some blazers, I have some pants, and I bought 2 button-down shirts, and I'm only going to use one of these 2 shirts. Alright, so I decided to work with the blue. So I'm going to be using the collar of the shirt. I'm going to be using this line going down as my accent piece in the middle. I'm going to be keeping the buttons. And so on the left and the right of this, I'm going to be sharing some black fabric. For the black fabric, I have a couple dress pants that I'll be using, and that will form the upper part of my dress. I'm going to go ahead and give it about a ½ inch to 1 inch seam allowance on the right and the left of this line of buttons. This is the key feature of the dress. It's going to be very central to what the dress looks like. Alright, so this is the first pair of pants that I'm going to work on getting that black fabric out of. Alright, so I actually seam ripped successfully both legs of the pants. You're looking right now at one leg of the first pants, and of course we have the other leg as well. Alright, so I am going to start putting this together. So here are both legs now open. So what I'm going to do to get more evenness out of this fabric, make it look more like a rectangle, is I'm going to turn it upside down, turn one upside down. The width at the bottom is now around the same as the width at the top. Alright, so I pinned the 2 pieces of pant legs right side to right side. Alright, so I have a nice big piece of fabric. This is actually enough to go around my entire body, but since I'll be sharing it, I actually need 1.5 times this. So I'm going to go ahead and seam rip my second pair of pants so I can add to this. Here we have 1.5 pair of pants all sewn together, and this will be my fabric that I will be sharing for the top of my dress. And I pinned the top hem of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and hem the top of our fabric. My fabric is now ready, and now it's time to start the sharing process. So what I have here are some elastics that I cut. These are elastics that I usually use in the waistband of, let's say, a pencil skirt. They are too wide for sharing, but that's okay because I can go ahead and cut them lengthwise in half. Alright, so I went ahead and I folded the fabric in half and made a marking on the halfway line, and then I folded that in half and I made a marking quarter way on the right side and on the left side. So now I have markings to mark out this fabric in our 4 quarters, and I'm going to do the same for my elastic. Alright, so I'm going to fold it in half. And instead of using chalk for this, I'm just going to go ahead and use pins. So I'm going to pin the halfway point. And then I'm going to fold that in half again. And I'm going to put pins to mark out the quarters as well. Okay, so I went ahead and pinned the markings, so the quarter-way and the halfway markings of the elastic to the quarter-way and halfway markings of the fabric. And I also pinned the end points of the elastic to the end points of the fabric. And when I take it to the machine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it out, and I'm going to sew it with the elastic flush against the fabric. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is anchor the elastic onto the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and stitch and then back stitch. So now that the elastic is anchored onto the fabric, I'm going to go ahead and pull. Have this flush against the fabric and sew. Alright, so here's what the first line of shirring looks like. I've done 9 lines of elastic, and that's what it looks like on the inside, but if you turn it around, that is what it's going to look like on the actual garment. So as you can see, it looks nice up here, but I have several more rows to go. So the shirring process is finally finished, and I'm ready to start attaching the center, which came from the shirt, to the shirt material. And so in order to do that, I have pinned the right side of the centerpiece here to the right side of the shirred material on the right side, and I've done the same thing on the left side. And so I'm going to go ahead, take this to the machine and sew it together. The centerpiece is now attached, and I'll be top stitching it so that the buttons do not open up when I have it on. I also marked out with a pin where I want my waistband to be, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of seam allowance, maybe an inch, and then I'm going to cut around at that area to separate the top of the dress from the middle of the dress. Alright, so that's what the top will look like, somewhat. Of course, I'll neaten that up. I went ahead and pinned the side seams of my shirt so that I can go ahead and take this to the machine and make sure that it is properly fitting on my form. Alright, so here's the blazer that I got from Goodwill, and it will be perfect for the waistband. I'm going to go ahead and just cut from the bottom. And for the waistband, I want to have the front nice and smooth. I don't want it to have that ruffled, shirred look. In the back, however, it will be shirred, and the only way I can get this on is if there is either some elastic or some closure of some sort. So I decided to shirr the back so it can go on. Now, to achieve the shirred look in the back, what I've done is I made the fabric so the whole waistband can go around my shoulders. It definitely should be able to go around my hips as well, so that way I can actually put this waistband on. But this excess fabric that you see in the back, I am going to want that to be smaller. So I cut the elastic the size that completes the actual size of the waistband, and I'm going to go ahead and stretch and sew this, and it will make the waistband smaller, but I'll be able to stretch it to put on the dress. This waistband is able to go over my shoulders or over my hips, and this will be the back, which is kind of cute, but I will have a nice smooth front. So I pinned the waistband that I just created to the top part of my dress, right side to right side. So this is the front, nice and flat, and this is the back where we have that ruching. And now I'm going to attach it using a zigzag stitch. So other than cleaning up some stuff, the top is done, and it's now time for me to start working on the middle. So the middle is going to be also shirred fabric that I cut off of the top earlier. I want the blue to come all the way down to the bottom of the middle of the dress. So this is the middle of the dress, and the blue kind of stopped short because the shirt was not long enough to go all the way down. So what I'm going to do is, because the sleeve kind of looks the same with that doubled up fabric, I'm going to use the sleeve to continue that line to go all the way down to the bottom of the middle part of the dress on the left and on the right. Alright, so as you can see, I extended the line going down the middle using the cuffs at the sleeves. I went ahead, tried this on, and I need to take in the waist just a little bit on either side. So I went ahead and pinned that, but what I'm going to do, because I don't want to have a seam at the top and no seam down below, I'm going to go ahead and sew along the pins, and then when I get down to here, I'm going to sew as close as possible to the edge of the dress just to give the effect of a seam. Alright, so now the middle part of the dress is complete. All I have to do is attach it to the top part of the dress. So in order to do that, I am going to leave the top part facing this direction, but I'm going to turn the skirt upside down and inside out, and I'm going to feed the shirt into the skirt. So the shirt is inside the skirt. Notice that the skirt is upside down and inside out, and the shirt is right side out. All right, and so now what I'm going to be doing is pinning this together right side to right side all the way around. For the bottom of the dress, I will be using some patchwork that I created from the pieces that I used to make the top part of the dress. So as you can see here, I have some squares cut. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I created this quilt-like look. So I've been doing it one row at a time, and there is a very specific pattern that I've been using. So because my last row that I did started from gray, the one before started from black, I'm going to go ahead and start the next row with my plaid. And so after plaid is black, I put my black and my plaid right side to right side, and I pin them together. I open it up, and after black is gray, so I grab a gray square and pin it to the black right side to right side and pin that. So once I have the gray pinned on, I open that up, and then I start the sequence again. Plaid, black, gray, plaid, black, gray, until I'm done with the row. All right, so I took it to the sewing machine and I sewed each of them together. And now it's time to pin this strip onto the rest of the fabric that I've created so far. So in order to do that, I want to make sure that it's oriented correctly and that the pattern that I've started, I'm continuing here. And I am going to go ahead and turn it and pin right side to right side. So here's what the finished product looks like of the bottom part of the dress when I finished putting all the pieces together. So now in order to move on with this piece of the dress, I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half and fold it in half again. And I'm going to be cutting out a large circle with a radius of 18 inches. I used pins to mark out 18 inches from the corner here, going all the way around. So this is a quarter circle that you're looking at, but because it's folded in 4, I'm going to get a full circle once this is open. Alright, so now I have my full circle. I'm going to go ahead and remove the pins so that I can shift the fabric and create the opening, the circle that goes right here. But it's going to be offset since I need to create that high-low effect. In order to get the measurement for the radius of the inside circle, I took the measurement going around the area that this section of the dress falls, and that was 40.5, and I divided by 6.28. And I will explain in another video linked below why 6.28. So whenever you need the measurement for the radius when you're doing a circle skirt or a circle, anything like a circle skirt, if you divide by 6.28, you will always get the radius needed. And again, linked below why. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. All right, so I'm pausing here to talk about how painful it was to have worked on that patchwork for days and then cut a huge circle out to waste it, to throw it away. I didn't want to throw it away, so I ended up making another piece in this video. I ended up actually making my first ever clutch. So if you want to see how I made this clutch, just leave a comment below and I'll make sure to create a tutorial for it for you. Alright, so I went ahead and cut the same shape out for black, and this will be the lining for this section of the dress. And I pinned around the edges, and I'm going to go ahead and sew that up. I sewed around the edge, and now I can go ahead and turn this around. Alright, so I cut an elastic to the size of the bottom of the upper part of the dress. And I marked out the quarter points, so I folded it in, first I made a seam right here, there we go.
And so then I folded it in half, well, by default, and I put a pin here. I folded it in half again and put pins here and here. So that marks out the 4 quarters. And I did the same thing for my circle, my inner circle here. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to pin the quarter points together of the elastic and of the fabric so that I can gather this and it will fit well around the upper part of the dress. So I ended up actually putting more than just the 4 pins. I actually put pins halfway between those markings as well. And the reason I did that is because now we're going to take it to the machine, and for every section I'm going to stretch and sew that section so that the material can gather uniformly around that elastic. Alright, so this is what it looks like with the elastic, and now I'm about to pin it to the upper part of the dress that we made earlier. So in order to do that, I have my dress right side out, and I'm going to turn this inside out and upside down and just stick the dress in. Alright, so I finished pinning my bottom piece onto the rest of the dress, and I'm about to go take it to the sewing machine and put it together.